And that's why you should never trust Steve Miller. What is going on, everybody? This is the Coverbandconfidential Podcast, the podcast for cover band musicians and band leaders to learn how to rock more and suck less in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
This is one of those situations where I think the pre-roll might be better than the episode. But I don't want to sell we haven't even started. I'm already selling a short.
I know. Yeah, no, the episode's going to rule, but the pre-roll was good, and the patrons are going to love it.
Indeed. How's your week gone?
Not bad. I did the first of the monthly trivias back where I used to do weekly trivias, and it felt weird. My rhythms were all off. Like all of my patterns were just not in my muscle memory after 3 weeks of not doing it. It was really surprising. It wasn't playing muscle memory. It was like the shtick and the jokes and all of that stuff was a little like the flow of the game, and it just felt a little off. But all my regulars were there, and we had a great time, and it was all good. And so, yeah, that was good. And then I got karaoke tomorrow night and trivia at the same brand in Greensboro rather than Lexington, the cider place in Greensboro. They picked me up for a couple of nights in November because they heard I was free. And so, yeah, no rest for the wicked, but it'll be good. And I think I just picked up a gig for the Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. You ever play that night?
Well, we have referred to it in our house as Blackout Wednesday.
Yeah.
As opposed to Black Friday.
It's supposed to be like a huge bar night. I don't know.
I've gotten it's hit or miss is what I would say. So it could be, depending on where you are and what's going on, you could end up with a bunch of folks in town looking to escape their families,
right? Or
it could be totally dead,
right?
So,
well, I'll play it as a gig. It'll be fine. I got the contract complete and, in fact, paid in full for the gig up in Asheville the weekend after Thanksgiving. So
very good. We got the sub gig where we were gone, finally got paid and distributed. I was starting to sweat that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got this coming weekend we're off, and then it's the back-to-back weekends back-to-back weddings the following weekend, not back-to-back weekends.
Right.
But we do have back-to-back weekends. There's just one right after the other.
Nice.
There's 5 days and then another weekend. It's crazy.
That's good.
There's that, and then we've got one holiday party the first week of December, and then we are done for the year. Well, I've got 2 trips planned. One just kind of popped up, and then we're going to Vegas in December for our anniversary.
Cool.
And I'm not sure if anybody who listens to this podcast is in Vegas, but if you are and you've got any lines on cool stuff going on, hit us up. Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. I am totally open.
I bet Vegas is fun in
suggestions.
I've never been.
We've got tickets to Jim Gaffigan.
Okay, all right.
So
like Jim Gaffigan.
That's the main thrust of going. Other than me and my wife hadn't been there as adults, so
yeah,
should be a good time.
Awesome,
very cool. In the music world and the community, the Facebook group's been pretty active, and then in Slack we're talking a lot about social media stuff. And I had there was a very weird conversation that was kind of like a side quest of the video that's coming out tomorrow about how to find out what other bands in your market are charging.
Right.
And it got a little controversial.
It did.
But
it did. I think it was your suggestion that was the most controversial, actually.
Well, and I was trying to think of it so the thing was, it's well, how do you find out how much other bands in your market are charging? Because you could absolutely ask people, and maybe they, some bands put pricing on their website, but for the most part, people are kind of close to the vest about those kinds of things. And I don't think they should be. I think the more people know about it, it's just like any other situation. If people know what you're charging, then they can, kind of price themselves accordingly. But I was brokered the question that if you are looking for that information and are unable to find it, is it ethical to pose as a potential client in order to get the pricing of somebody else in your market? And people were not super stoked on that.
The answer seems to be no. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people said that, no, that's not cool, but I may or may not have done it before.
Right. Yes, that's a thing.
So there's a little bit of that. There's a little of how dare you, but also that's not a bad idea.
Yeah, that's evil. I like it.
Yeah. So we are not condoning that kind of behavior.
All.
But
please don't do it.
Don't do it. But
especially against us.
It's just like, cable news pundits. We're just asking questions, So
yeah.
And other fun stuff. I'm thinking about putting out social media challenges. Maybe not weekly, because I don't know if I have that many ideas, but I think that might be a cool idea. And the video for that's coming out tomorrow is 5 things you need to do private events and how to negotiate and approach pricing.
Cool.
We kind of talked about it back and forth. And I mean, I think people who listen to this podcast are very well aware of, how we approach those things. But condensing it down to 8 minutes was a challenge indeed. But it's going to be a good one. And it'll be out tomorrow in the morning.
Cool.
Just like me, I will also be out in the morning because I've got an outpatient procedure scheduled for Friday. And
is that all you're going to say about that?
Listen, there comes a time in a man's life where he doesn't need all of his faculties.
Yeah, he's used them. He's produced what there is to produce, and
that's that.
Yeah.
And so I'm
joining the ranks. It'll be 2 for 2.
Yeah, I'm going
podcasts that are.
I'm gonna go. Take the bullets out of the gun, as they say.
Take the lead out of the pencil.
Then you can point it at anybody. They don't care.
I'm not sure that's how it works, but I like your moxie.
Believe it or not, that's a Jeff Foxworthy joke.
Is it? Jesus.
Yep.
Wow.
But he's like, they point at anybody. I don't care. It got a big laugh.
All right. He may be a redneck.
He's got some good stuff.
Yeah.
And I listened to, he did an episode of WTF with Mark Maron. And I know a lot of people are not necessarily a fan of his shtick, but he is very much a comedian and is a fan of the art form. Like he spent 2 hours talking about the minutia, the mechanisms of being a comic. And it was absolutely fascinating to hear him speak about that thing, because that's a dude who's a lifer. He's been doing this thing for 30 some odd years. Yeah. And he is well entrenched in the ecosystem, and hearing him talk about it is super interesting.
Yeah.
And he's one of those, we talk about this, we are nerds for this kind of stuff. And he is that, but for comedy. And actually, this week's topic is very much a nerdy thing that only musicians appreciate. Even if you're not a fan of Jeff Foxworthy, you should listen to that interview, because it's actually very, very good. He's a very interesting person. So,
yes, I do dig when comedians talk about the structure and sort of the math of comedy. It's an interesting topic, and not unlike the skill of front personing it, what it is to crowd engage and be, aware of the spaces and timing of it, engaging with a room. It's all the same skill, really.
Yeah. And entertaining is just it is an art form in itself. And there are things that we can take from all of that. And another podcast that I really have been enjoying is Dana Carvey and David Spade have one called Fly on the Wall, where they interview other SNL people. They did a 2-parter with Lorne Michaels that was incredibly fascinating.
Wow.
But that's the weird thing. I really love getting into that, and I'm a huge SNL freak. Any iota of information about SNL, I want it, in my brain. So
cool.
Anyway, none of this has anything to do with what it is we were supposed to talk about tonight.
Well, what are we supposed to talk about tonight?
So this week's topic kind of just fell in my lap, really. In the process of prepping for this back-to-back wedding weekend, we had a couple of signature tunes that were requested. And the one that I really wasn't concerned with was an 80s tune that Members Only was supposed to do as a first song. And it's not a song that we've ever played before, but I was kind of sort of familiar with it. And that song is Love of a Lifetime by Firehouse.
Yeah.
Now, to me, the iconic Firehouse tune is When I Look Into Your Eyes. That was the one that was on the Monster Ballads compilation CD that I bought when I was in high school.
100%.
But I knew Love of a Lifetime. It's that standard, 1-5-4 big chorus. And so the bridal party requested it. And so we're cool, yeah, we can totally do that. So I started listening to it and just kind of casually ingesting it to see if I knew where it went. And it immediately became apparent that this is not the song that I thought it was.
Okay.
Not that it wasn't what I remember, because it's not I thought it was a different song. We had that conversation a couple of weeks ago where I was trying to play Bust a Move when I was supposed to be playing, another song. But it's a lot more complex musically than face value.
Yeah.
So
it opens with this finger picking pattern, right? That seems like it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. But as you're counting, you realize that there are short bars, and they kind of happen throughout the song.
All right.
So it's not a thing where you can just kind of turn your brain off and just play a certain set of chords, for the entire song. So as I'm going through and shedding this, I start running into these short bars, and I immediately get on the group conversation. I was like, guys, you need to start looking at this now because it is not the cakewalk that I was anticipating. So the conversation really was about songs that you initially thought were going to be like super easy to onboard and really were much more complicated than you initially thought they would be.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've all definitely been in a situation where we all got into the room ready to like work through something and it just doesn't come together.
Right.
And it's super frustrating, but it feels like a very familiar and relatable topic. Yeah. So I thought that'd be a fun one to dig into.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've had a few that were like that, and then we really busted our asses and really learned it.
Well, yeah, there's always that. It's like we hit a wall, but we broke through the wall.
Right. And I certainly have a few that we hit a wall and did not break through and abandoned. Yep. And, there's still, the trash fire is still burning there. We're not going back to that one. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do any songs in particular come to mind for you?
Well, when you proposed this topic earlier today, the one that jumped straight to mind was Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears, which is, I thought I knew it. I really thought I knew it. But there is a lot happening in that song. There are parts of it that break verse chorus structure wide open.
Yep.
There's a break in the middle that changes there's a bass pattern that's really important to a break in the middle that doesn't happen anywhere else in the song. There is a 6-bar sort of micro lead break on the way into the repeat of the final chorus. If you're going to do it the way that it's recorded, it's complicated. The final solo is not that tricky, but in my previous band, my bassist proposed it, and we did it. And we did it in a super dumbed down way because I never bothered to study it. And then at some point I heard it came on the radio or something, and I was like, oh God, yeah, we're miles away from this thing. And audiences are kind of like tolerating what we're doing, apparently. Nobody's like, there's not an uproar about it. Maybe nobody loves that song. Yeah. I don't know. I've always loved it, but I love my version in my head, not how it really is. So with my current group, we really have broken it down and learned it piece by piece, and we now are doing it per the recording. And it's pretty great, I think. Yeah. It's a mid-tempo tune that nobody's going to get up and dance to, but a lot of people sort of sing the chorus along with you, and air guitar, the part where it kicks into distortion, there's a room where I will find you, that part. So it's a good tune. It's worth playing, but you got to learn it. You got to learn it. There's no way to bluff your way through that one. Yeah. So Members Only, that is a song that we've done for a long time. It had fallen out, and we've been kind of talking about bringing it back. And we didn't have the luxury of like kind of sort of figuring it out because I built the track off of the stems. Right. So I was using, the source material, but there's no click to it. I had to build the click from like the percussion and the drum sounds. Yeah. So actually for our backing track, the click is baku kaku kap, baku kaku kap, baku kap. So I promised I wouldn't talk about it too much. But the drum pattern is really the sticking point. Yeah. And when Nathan, our drummer, initially auditioned, I took him to task because he wasn't playing the hi-hat pattern right, and he should have left. In any other scenario, he should have seen this coming and gone, maybe I'm okay. But I'll be dipped. He learned it, and it sounds incredible. It's one of my favorite songs. It's a first setter. But it's one of those tunes that everybody knows, and they really like it, and it may not necessarily get people up and out of their seats, but if there's anybody who's remotely musically inclined, they know. Yeah. And a band that can do that's an impressive hurdle to get over. I had a sub bassist at my Halloween Saturday night gig this last weekend. Maybe we can come back and talk about him later. Okay. There's something to say there, but it was a mess in rehearsals. And I told him, listen, it's just like the recording. Just go study the recording. And he said, yeah, I'll do it. And then on the night, I called an audible and skipped it. Yep. For reasons we'll come back to about that dude. Okay. Yeah. But because it ain't regular, you can't bluff your way through it. Not that one. Because the way that song is, it's got to be in the right spot. Yeah. If it doesn't land or it's not in the right place, then it could just go over like a lead balloon. So it's not worth, looking through. Yeah. I mean, much like many mid-tempo tunes, it's got a home at a particular spot in the set list in the night, and it's not after everybody's drinking and wanting to dance. It's not that kind of tune, but it's popular and people like it. I think you're right about that, but it's a train wreck waiting to happen unless you're prepared. So a couple of other examples that I could think of just in band experiences over the years. I have been in groups where we tried to do Go Your Own Way by Fleetwood Mac. Yeah. And it didn't work for lots of reasons. I mean, that one's structurally pretty regular, isn't it?
It is, but if you don't have the dynamics and you don't have the vocal arrangement right, it just doesn't work the same way.
Yeah.
A couple others that popped in my head. I remember my classic rock band from college trying to do like Rat songs, like Round and Round. Forget it. Another one that
a lot
was
harder vocally than you think.
Not really. That one is absolutely, it's guitar and it's the arrangement, because the riff on that song is really impressive. I mean, Warren DeMartini is a absolute beast. And so, yeah, you should go listen to that song.
I'll have to. All I can hear is the vocal of it.
Yeah, so the two Rat songs that we ever tried to do were that one and Lay It Down, and that's another one where like the riff is just
you're right. Yeah,
so sick. Another one that we tried and failed to do was Shout at the Devil by Motley Crue, and that was one where I couldn't do it. There's no room for breathing, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
Do you have any other ones that?
Yeah. So listen, as the acoustic duo, we have done Jolene forever.
Yep.
Forever. Huge crowd favorite. Everybody loves it. We could not get the feel of it right as a band. And it was like just kind of a marchy sort of a something that we never got the feel quite right for. I have done Jammin' Bob Marley. I've done that one acoustic forever and ever, and we could not get that to work as a band. Just something about the laid backness. My drummer's like he's got a lot of groove, but it's like a pushy kind of groove, and like kind of to sit back in the pocket the way that song wants is not, we really struggled with that and gave up on it eventually. One that we did work hard on to get, and again, it was a structural matter, was Let's Dance, David Bowie. Bowie is always a structural challenge, always.
Yeah, he is not a fan of convention.
Yeah. Yeah. So we did get that one down. The one we gave up on was Under Pressure, because we couldn't get it to flow right. I think the show we wanted to do it at was coming up too fast, and we didn't feel like we had time to put it together, and then we never got back to it because we had a bad taste, I think.
So circling back to Jolene, you were talking about how like the rhythm of it is interesting.
Yep.
When they recorded that song, first of all, she wrote Jolene and I Will Always Love You, I think in the same week.
Yeah, and like a couple other things.
It might have been the same day.
Same night. Yes, that's the story I heard.
But apparently the players that were in on that session, he couldn't get the guitar part right either. So she played it.
Right. Yeah.
That's her on the record.
Yeah.
Because he just was like, he couldn't figure it out. So she was like, move.
Right. Yeah. I think I have the guitar riff basically right, or right enough. It was that sort of train rhythm.
Well, and that's what it is. It boom ba doom ba doom boom ba doom
doom. Yeah, with a thing happening on the drums.
Yeah, it's got a killer part to it.
Great riff. It's a great riff.
That's off the Dolly.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
She's got it. So you were talking about Under Pressure. That's another tune that Members Only has done. It's one that like we did for a number of years, and then again, I think we got tired of it. I don't think audiences did, but we just were kind of like, man, we'll just leave it, because again, it's another one of those mid-tempo ones. But I think that's another one of those where like a lot of bands may struggle because we are used to playing to the tracks. But you were talking about how like it doesn't follow structure.
Right.
Normally our cues would be chorus,
verse 1,
verse
2,
bridge. The only cues in Under Pressure are go.
Yeah. Well, what else are you gonna say?
So it's just like dun 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 go. Sheeping around. Yeah, that's how we did it. Yeah. So just go. That's what you
that might
do.
be one that's fun to pull out. I think I could do the Bowie and Taylor could do the.
That's how we did it. Amber did Freddie and I did.
Freddie, yeah.
And I love singing like David Bowie.
Me too. Oh, me too.
You had mentioned Let's Dance, and that's a song that I really want to add to our repertoire.
I gotta tell you, the guitar part of it is super fun. It's a great tune. It was
the Taylor Hawkins tribute was the one that really I was like, oh, hearing Josh Homme just crush that song was just incredible. Right. And you do have to you have to sing it like Bowie. You can't there's not really a way to put your own stank on that.
You gotta put on your red shoes.
Yeah, no, you gotta do it. You got to.
And I'll tell you, for our band, it was one of the first track tunes we ever put together. So I had the horns, and it's just saucy. It's just super good.
So another one that is currently on the maybe list that Nathan, God bless him, has just been wanting to add for the longest time is Kyrie by Mr. Mister.
I will be confessing that I love that song very much. And
I am super gun shy about that tune. And it's the vocal stacks.
Yeah. It's intense.
Because they're so thick.
Yeah.
So could you do it without, 17 voices with the freaking key change?
Fair.
Yeah. And all the ad libs. And yeah, it's just, I know the band could do it. It's just like the vocals. Nathan's like, no one cares. I was like, I care.
I care. I'm just daunted.
I care. I care so gosh damn much.
I care a lot. I'm terrified.
Every one of these is an opportunity to kind of rise to the occasion, to really dig in and like see what you're made of.
Yeah, and listen, and sometimes they're not as hard as you think.
I feel like there's plenty of tunes where I was like, I don't know about that, and then you try and you're like, oh,
right.
I feel like there's probably more of those, but because there's so many of those, it is kind of fun to be like, piece of cake. You're like, oh crap, never mind.
Yeah, the most recent one that I thought I would never get to do, but when I tried it was not a big deal. Was Salisbury Hill. Peter Gabriel, which I now do a killer acoustic version of. And the trick of that song, I think I nail most of the time. That song's in 7.
Yep.
And I don't count a bar of it, right? I just know that I have that song in my bones because I do. And I sing it the way I hear it. And if every now and then I play an 8, well, suck it.
Yeah.
Mostly I have it in 7. So, and I know that, and I can hear it and feel it, and it's fine. But I had to I did create a voicing for it that is not in the original key. It's repositioned so that it's playable and fits in my voice. And I like it a lot. It brought one of my regulars to tears.
Love it.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I do like that. So let's flip it. Let's do songs that sound hard that aren't hard, because I think that's just as much fun. And a lot of these, I think us as guitar players, we look at songs that are primarily like key heavy and think that's got to be super, super hard to play. So Off the Top of the Dome, Take On Me by Aha is super like easy chord voicings.
Yeah, if you got a range like yours, it's easy to do. I can't sing it. But the chords are easy. The chords aren't hard.
The chords are easy.
Yeah.
Another one, Your Song by Elton John is not as difficult as it sounds. There's some like interesting inversions, but all open voicings. And so if you can throw your thumb in, you can do a couple of these cool walk down parts.
The thumb's a crucial thing. I was playing, so last night's trivia was Disney themed. It's been 6 months.
Yes.
I owed it to them.
Whole new world.
And somebody pointed out that in my version of Under the Sea, I'm comping that, and it's not hard. It's D and a G7. And, there's a couple strings. It's where those notes live. And there they are. And one of my people there was like, it was amazing. You played it just like it's like, yeah, it's right here.
All right. So I'm looking through like my big honking song list. Let's circle back on songs that sound easy that are harder than they sound. I Want It That Way by the Backstreet Boys. Weird arrangement.
And a key change that's not simple.
Yeah, it's a whole step key change that's pretty basic, but like
feels weird. It's
on the same note. Hit Me Baby One More Time. Also very strange chord progression and arrangement.
Yeah, yep. I've done that one acoustic for a long time. It's hilarious to have a 48-year-old dude singing Hit Me Baby One More Time. Uptown Girl, Billy Joel. It's easy to play on guitar. You can comp that one super easy. Sure. One that I thought I'd never get, and it was one of those like, boy, if I could only, and then I did the work and had it, was the opening couple phrases, like songs lengths of Thick as a Brick by Jethro Tull, which is double album length song. It's one long piece of composed music, and I can do the first 6 to 8 minutes of it, and it opens with this really cool finger-picked thing that's tricky, and I did the work. I legitimately did the work, and I can now fully play it, and nobody cares when I do it because nobody knows that song, but I enjoy it. So we talk about Virtual Insanity, that Jamiroquai song. Harder. No, seems hard is hard. Seems hard is hard, but isn't impossible. Not impossible. No, just jazzy. A lot of chords that your average player is not going to quite have. I'll give it to Adam Moskowitz. He was like, it was one of the best. You can play it down a half step, but if you don't, it does sound a bit better. And then he played it. I was like, gosh darn. Oh, Moskowitz. I mean, he's right. He's right. But there's not a snowball's chance in hell that I could play what he was playing and sing it at the same time. No way. So I'm not going to try. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. Well, this is just fun. I just like talking about songs. I know. It's the best thing. Talking about kind of like jazzy stuff. The Way You Look Tonight is a super easy song to play on guitar for a standard. Yep. Nothing really out in left field as far as chord voicings. Right. Speaking of jazzy, though, we're aware that the market we want to get into is going to require us to have like a down-tempo dinner set. Yep. And so my bassist, who is a graduate of the local music school's jazz program, and I, a couple of rehearsals ago, just found ourselves comping Girl from Ipanema, which is a jazz standard. So I was playing that, and I was singing it, and she was, bassing around under me, and my drummer was like, "Oh, I think I can. Yeah, I know of this." And so it was fun. That's the thing with jazz standards. And I was talking to my little brother was in the jazz program as a drummer at the University of Utah for a few years. And he gigged as a jazz drummer, which is a specific kind of drummer. It's a different drummer than our kind of drummer is. And he and I were talking about how like his whole skill set is the saxophone player is in the middle of a solo. It's his second time around the head, and he can hear that sax player is headed towards something 8 bars from now. And he's got the skill to get there with him, right? But like the structure of Everybody Wants to Rule the World, like I kind of said that to him. He was like, "Yeah, no, I know some of those words, but I couldn't get my head around any of that." But it did describe like he was sitting in with a band, and the next song up was Superstition, and he hadn't had a chance to rehearse. He was just kind of sitting in because it was mostly jazz standards, but that one was there, and the band leader looked at him like, "Oh my god," and he just went, "Dick."
Yep.
And they were like, "Oh, okay, all right, kid knows it." But it's a different kind of thing. Like as a jazz drummer, you know the real book, but you don't know the general business stuff that you and I know. It was interesting. He and I had never really compared notes about that. It's been a few years since he's last played, but it's an interesting thing. Like, the ones you play your idiom.
Well, yeah. And, a lot of times you can do something and then somebody goes, "How'd you do that?" And you're like, "I don't know. It's just there."
For sure.
I'm sure if you gave me enough time, I could explain the structure of Everybody Wants to Rule the World.
Yep.
But I just know where to go.
Right.
Because we've done it so many times.
Yeah,
it's just in there.
Or I could walk you through the intro to Little Wing.
Yep.
Right, beat by beat, chord by chord, and I could tell you what I think Jimmy was thinking in each of those parts, and where it's tight and where it's sloppy, and why I think he was doing that. I actually have theories about these things, but then there's standing up and delivering it, and it's a non-intellectual thing.
Yeah. Oh, here's another one that sounds harder than it is. More Than a Woman by the Bee Gees.
Huh, never tried it.
It's got a couple of weird chords, but they're not hard chords. The second chord in the kind of like turnaround section is an A over B, which is literally like just your finger across like like the entire section of the second fret.
I love suspended chords like that. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's C major 7 and A over B. And then the verse is E major 7 over A and A over B. It's like it's super, super basic. But again, you got to be up there.
Yeah.
Girl, I know you very
well. That's my problem with that one. Our one that seems hard and is hard is Tempted by Squeeze. Boy, oh boy.
Forget it.
There's a lot. And I do that one acoustic. Almost every show I do that one acoustic. But it's one of the ones that learning that one, I learned a lot about how to separate chords from bass lines. Because most of what's happening there's a moving bass happening that's a little separate from the chordal structure. And I recommend that one as a good one to learn for like a high intermediate guitarist, because it broke my thinking some about a chord and a bass note. There's movement in it that you're not used to, and it's a good tune. It's a good tune to know.
All right. I need everybody in the listener world to hit me up, coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. What is the best arrangement for Biggest Part of Me by Ambrosia? That is one of those songs that I just love so much. And every single thing that I've seen, like I'm currently staring at one on Ultimate Guitar, and the chord list, the list of chords in the song, just 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26 chords.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
Different chords. Those are all unique
distinct chords.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
They don't have an official version of it. This is just somebody's take on that.
Right.
I love that song, but like there's not a snowball's chance in hell I can put 26 chords like in my brain to regurgitate.
Yeah, Tempted is like that. There's like a lot happening in that one.
Yeah.
But again, a lot of those are a bass line moving across the bottom of a chord that's pretty much staying in place and stuff like that.
Now there's another arrangement here that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chords. Might need to sit through that one and figure out if maybe that's the one. Any parting words? I mean, this is just us, dicking around talking about, songs we like.
Well, here's the thing. On a certain level, it comes all down to, does the audience care? Is anyone going to be impressed by your guitar stunts? Is anybody going to be like, oh, he can play he can play Tempted by Squeeze. No, nobody's going to care about that. In fact, a lot of people are going to be
people like that song.
People like that song, for sure.
As a singer, I love that song.
Yeah.
It's got such a cool, like the phrasing's cool and the melody's cool.
Flannel for my face.
A flannel for my face.
Pajamas.
I don't know what that is. A hairbrush.
New shoes.
No, a hairbrush.
Hairbrush, you're right. New shoes and a case. Yeah.
And I said to my reflection, let's get out of this place.
Yeah. It's a great tune.
It broke the band up.
I don't know this story.
It did. The guy who sings Tempted is not the lead singer of Squeeze. It is their keyboard player. It was kind of like not necessarily an afterthought, but it was like kind of like a pet project for him, and it blew them up. And then Squeeze became the Tempted band and not the lead
Whatever
singer.
they'd done before.
And so it caused a whole bunch of strife and turmoil. So,
well, listen, and a similar note, and a song that's equally tricky to learn structurally is Africa by Toto, which they thought was just going to be a stupid song. They hated it. It was like the B-ist of B-sides. And to be fair, the lyric is dumb.
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti. A metaphor should be a comparison of two unlike things. So one mountain's like another is a dumb metaphor. Badly done.
But I know that I must do what's right. Sure as Kilimanjaro. Like, it's just
it makes no sense. It's super dumb.
Yeah, it's
super dumb.
Here's my challenge to everybody listening to this. Try and use sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti as a metaphor in your daily life in the next 7 days.
I'm going to try it.
You should.
I work with a bunch of nerds who refer to things and like make movie references all the time. So I bet it'll kill. Point is, there's rhythmic weirdness in that song, mostly built around the opening phrase, that takes some practice to get your head around how that phrase fits both in the intro and between verses, because it's not just square fours. There's other stuff happening there.
Well, and the tricky part is that the click is straight four. That's another one of those things where you're like, okay, we're going to play around this. You got to figure that whole part out. So yeah, everything is on the in-betweens.
Right.
But it's a fun one. Thankfully, I think Weezer killed it for us. We pulled it from our list.
Really?
Yep.
We still do it pretty much every show.
We pulled it probably 6 months to a year ago.
Huh.
Because it just got to be like, it was like a song that we played every single time. It was just like, I think it just hit maximum saturation. It was right around the time that like Weezer was on television playing it like 6 times a week.
We have
take a break.
I have a few standing jokes that I do as a frontman, and there is one in the middle of that where we get to the last verse. We're repeating "Bless the Rains Down in Africa" several times.
Yep.
And I turn to Taylor and I say, "I'm going to try it," and she's like, "Oh, I don't know." I say, "I'm going to try it." She's like, "I don't know," and then I do that. And I nail it 6 out of 10 times. And any way it goes is funny because I've set it up to be like, I'm going to try it. It's a good joke, but repetitive.
My Africa joke is, as we're starting, I was like, here's a song by a little band called Weezer. And Amber rolls her eyes and hates me forever. But I do the ad-libs. I got it.
Yeah.
I can do that. It's like an A4?
Something.
That last one?
Yeah.
What? Gonna take some time. I did that fun video where I recorded our entire set. And I was like, my live vocal range, it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Too much.
It's too much.
Yeah,
I think
the rest of us hate you. It's okay.
I do it, and it's too much.
Yeah.
All right, I think we've put these people through enough.
Yeah, let's move on. I think the topic's exhausted.
Well, folks, do you have a song that you thought was going to be a piece of cake that really kicked your butt? Let us know. Coverbandconfidential@gmail.com. Flip side. Songs that sound super hard but are much easier than you thought.
Yeah.
We also want to hear those too. We can discuss that on all of the channels that we've got going on. But I think it's probably time for us to bid you adieu. This time next week, I'll be on the other side of getting ready for this wedding weekend and all the other fun stuff. So
cool.
Should be some fun conversations to have.
Right on.
All right. Thanks, y'all, for tuning in. You want to help us out? Leave us a review. No one has left us a review since January.
Boy, it's been
of
a
this
while.
year. So if you haven't done it,
and I know we have some new listeners since then.
Oh, 100%.
The numbers show we got new listeners since then.
I was going to post this and I haven't yet, but this is the first time we as a podcast have ever crossed 50,000 downloads and listens in a single year.
Boom! What?
That's what's crazy about it. So last year is the closest we ever got. It was 46,000 and change.
Yep.
At the end of October, meaning 2 months to go, we had already surpassed that.
Boom.
Which is crazy.
What?
So the community is growing and it's incredible. Like, it's weird to think that anybody would be willing to listen to us talk 50,000 times.
I know. I listened to it. I can't believe it.
I listened to it too.
You got to do vanity listen, obviously.
Spot check. Well, I call it a spot check.
Yeah, that works.
That's what we're doing. It's all about quality here.
Yeah, it's all about vanity over here.
Anyway, if you want to do anything else besides leaving a review, you can do any of the stuff that our buddy Adam Moskowitz from the Van Band is about to tell you now. But for now, I will call it for this week. In Atlanta, Georgia, I'm Adam Johnson.
In Greensboro, North Carolina, I'm Dan Ray.
You've been listening to the Coverband Confidential podcast for the week of November 4th, 2022. Have a great week.